consciousness shift in leaders in many organizations really wanting to change what brands can do for people in the world. And you guys are ahead of many of them, I just want to say that, because you have your mission so clear. What maybe was lacking was a brand that was fit for the purpose. Does that make sense? A brand that would really allow you to have the impact that you would want to have. Because with the mission that you're on, you want a brand that is desirable for people. You want a brand that is attractive to people. So they're interested in you and they want to become part of who you are as a community and what you stand for, and fully participate in creating optimal health, which of course, you know, I've learned over the years is the trilogy, not just obviously the physical transformation. So we've been on this journey, and it seems like I've heard that phrase a lot, and if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, okay, but what's next, right? So I just want to kind of explain where we are now, because your role becomes even more important. We're at a point now, and Sundance was a turning point. Who enjoyed the brainstorming and ideation at Sundance? Because there's some really great ideas that were, you know, we reviewed and we worked through. And what we saw was that there were certain themes that were common. And I just want to give you a little bit of an idea about how a brand builder thinks, because I'd really like us to think as brand builders. When you look at a whole range of ideas that came out of Sundance, what you're looking for is, what is the experience that this brand wants to create for people, okay? And I think what you'll notice is if you're in the presence of a really well-defined brand, and you walk into Nike Town, or you walk into an Apple store, do you get that you have a very different experience in those two places, yeah? And this is what a brand obsesses over, which is, what's the experience we want to create for people? And so we're at this point now with all of that ideation to say, what is it that we want to create in practical terms that is a brand experience but actually does the job we want to do? So we have 4 areas that we're working with. And this came out of all the work that you guys did in Sundance, so I'm playing back to you the kind of distillation of this, is that what most people do when they want to create, say, a website or some training or a brochure, you will hear the comment, and this isn't a criticism for me, it's just from me, it's just an observation. What a lot of people will do is they'll say, so what do we put on the website? Or we need a brochure for that. What do we put in the brochure? Okay? What a brand builder asks, and we call a brand builder who does this a design thinker, what they'll ask is, how do we acquire clients in a way that's in correlation and reflects our brand experience, and how do we support them? What happens on the website, what happens with brochures, what happens with training, comes from that question. Rather than we need a site for this, a site for this, a brochure for this, a brochure for this. Is this making sense? And so with all of the themes that came out at Sundance, what the team are now about to enter into, so this is the business alacrity team with Zenobia's support, very much in the background, guiding and kind of steering those conversations, is we're asking questions now to say, rather than say, some things we're doing now aren't working in the way we would like to, you know, have them work, so how do we fix it? That's a very normal response. What a brand builder would say is, how do we create this in a way so we give people the experience that Optavia wants to give people? And so you move from a problem-solution scenario to one of creating. And hopefully this is making sense, because I think when you strip it down to the fundamentals like this and you ask the right questions, people typically go, yes, that makes sense. But it's the discipline of doing it. And so you're only ready for that. So I want to sort of put this in a kind of a continuum. You're only ready for that when you have a collective group of people who are working with each other in a way to collaborate and contribute in the way we did at Sundance and the way we'll proceed moving forward. But you're only in a position to do that when the people are involved. Because the other mistake that's often made is you get a brand agency, and we don't class ourselves as a brand agency, but you get a brand agency that comes up with a sexy thing that you don't recognize. Does that make sense? And the reaction often is, well, that's not us. So they're trying to tell you who you are as opposed to listen for who you are and help you express yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I'm going to take questions on that shortly to see if there's anything you've got specific questions about that I can answer that, you know, I may not think to say directly. I think the other thing that I'm going to say as a Brit who works globally is something because of our mission that we're on that I think will be meaningful to you, and I haven't kind of checked that this is okay to say, but it's something I feel strongly about, is that we were, well, the night of the election, I was with a group of change agents in Whidbey Island, and I found it really interesting, and I was trying to make a joke which didn't go down very well, but there was a Canadian, an Australian, and an English person, that was me, in the kitchen at this house, and everybody else was in the lounge area watching the TV. So I made this joke that the Commonwealth were in the kitchen, and we were just waiting for the, you know, the result. And I was only doing that because everybody was so tense. And then I thought, it's a British sense of humour, it's not going to go down very well. Just drink a gin and tonic, Helen, and not try and be funny, okay? And what was interesting for me is we were on a programme, so I do a lot of professional development. We were on a programme called Conversational Leadership, and what that programme was about was how do we as leaders create conversations in the world that elevates and progresses the consciousness of business in the world. Does this make sense? So what are those conversations we want to facilitate around the world? And of course we're in this very tense moment that evening, and I was very respectful of the reactions that I saw, and I'm so glad I kind of saw that role. Somebody could have told me about it, but I was actually there to see people's reactions. And the next day when we were in the room, it was a very different atmosphere. And really what my response was, and of course I was a little bit more detached, even though Brexit in the UK had done a similar thing, I said, this is when the world needs us, guys. So I said, you know, I know for some of you in the room this is a big shock, but this is when the world needs us to actually be the light in the world that's meaningful to people around what they want in their lives. And I really do think this is where brands will rise to the occasion to be the signposts and guides in the world for what people are truly looking for. I think there is a disillusionment with certain institutions, and I've always thought that brands will play such an important role in helping people live their ideals. And that's the Optavia ideal that we want to stand for and be there for people. Is this making sense?
Absolutely.
And so my recommitment that day, when I saw, you know, some very accomplished facilitators and leaders kind of feel a little bit lost, that was my rally cry to say, okay, let's truly be of service in the way that we can. And let's step up, and actually, you know, we've renamed the company. The company behind Zenobia is called, have I told you this? It's called Halcyon. Did I tell you this? Because Zenobia is a brand in the company. We have several brands. And Halcyon is the name of the company, because my name is Helen Urwin, and we called it Halcyon, and we've actually renamed it Halcyon Rising. Because what we want to really be is a brand that rises to the challenge of serving the companies that we serve, but so those companies can be the best they can be in the world for people. And so, for me, the brand element's taken on even more importance, because the look, the feel, the attractiveness, you want to stand out and have the impact because you really do stand for something meaningful. So everything that's been worked on, the visual, the voice, the jobs to be done, how do we acquire clients the Optavia way? How do we convert those clients to be coaches? How do we develop those coaches? How do we develop leaders? How do we do this the Optavia way? This is all what's being worked on so that we can be fully transitioned in July to truly be Optavia. And I think the thing that's been important for the Alacrity session, and maybe some people can speak to that shortly, is that I always say, and again it goes back to the world scenario and then the brand development journey that we're on, I always think, and this is what I was saying to in the conversational leadership workshop, is that when people are maybe a little bit lost, they look for assurance in leaders. And so I've always wanted to be that leader for my clients who will show up as a force of assurance to say it's all good. It's all going to work out fine. The results assured, because we know what we're doing, and with your help, we'll create the best brand that we can possibly create. And I would like us all to have that assurance moving forward for everyone else in the organisation. Who are the people who are looking to you that you can give assurance to? And you'll start to see through your own involvement, so I'll just talk about that now, is that you will be asked to give feedback on the things that are being developed. So as a collaboration, it's not about us all kind of getting our hands on the same thing, but as things are being developed, we are going to need feedback, we may need course correction, and so we've got to find a way to invite that so that you're part of that, but we'll do it in a very structured way. And we're just working out how to do